All right, West Virginia fans, the 2026 West Virginia football schedule has officially been released. On today's episode, I'm going to break down the most intriguing games on the schedule. We're going to rank every game from 12 to 1 and count down the most intriguing games that the Mountaineers face this season. Before we do, if you're a West Virginia fan, please remember to like and subscribe to JerseyEER. We really appreciate all the support. With that being said, let's get into today's show. So to start off, let's break down the schedule in advance. So you can see here 7 home games this next season, which is absolutely crucial for West Virginia. They get the extra home game in the Big 12, so you get 5 Big 12 home games, which should help them immensely with generating revenue with the economy for West Virginia. It's a big deal and could give them a competitive advantage in the 2026 season. And then you also get the neutral site game in Charlotte versus the Virginia Cavs, who are a very up-and-coming team that did some great things this year. So an exciting schedule for West Virginia, but right off the top of the bat, you have to like the fact that you have 7 home games and 1 neutral site game, and while you try to get this thing back in the right direction. Also of note, we're going to go against 5 new coaches this year, so that is definitely interesting as coaches try to establish their culture and get things going in year 1. So can West Virginia use that to their advantage? So far, we have all Saturday games. This is subject to change, but it seems like right now there's going to be all Saturday slates for the West Virginia Mountaineers in 2026. And then the bye week is October 31st. So if you're like me and you have a family, this is very ideal. You can go trick-or-treating and not have to worry about DVRing the game or watching the game on your phone and have your spouse get annoyed at you. You can just enjoy your Halloween night, which is awesome. So I'm very happy to see that. Only one bye week on the schedule this year, so keep that in mind, and it comes late in the season. Hopefully, West Virginia can stay healthy as they go through the games of the season. With all that being said, let's rank the games. So let's count down from 12 to 1. In my opinion, what are the most intriguing games or the most exciting games on this 2026 schedule? So to start off at number 12, we have September 12th. It's week 2 versus UT Martin, the Skyhawks. Here's the reason why it's 12. It's not the opener, and it's an FCS opponent, right? West Virginia is undefeated all time versus FCS opponents, and most of the games are over by halftime, and that should be the case in this one. UT Martin is not an FCS juggernaut. They're 6-6 in 2025, and this should be a non-competitive game. The reasons to go to this game would be if you have season tickets and you want to enjoy pretty much a good chance that you're going to win this one. You get a nice day to tailgate and you get out there in football season. Maybe you bring young kids to this one so they can enjoy a win. But as far as an intriguing game goes, this is going to be last on my schedule at number 12. Coming in at number 11, I have the September 5th game versus Coastal Carolina. The reason why this beat UT Martin is this is the season opener. And with a season opener, there's a buzz around Morgantown no matter who we are playing. So for this one, even though you're playing a team that's not going to be as highly rated as you and a group of 5 school, it's still a chance to see the new Mountaineers. This is going to be a completely new revamped roster again for West Virginia. So getting a chance to see some of the new players in a Mountaineer uniform will definitely still be exciting. Also, you have the President Benson situation where he came from Coastal Carolina, so I'm sure it'll be a full circle moment for him. And then also of note on this one, WVU transfer Ezekiel Durham Campbell played at Coastal last season, so he'll have a chance to face his former team. So this is going to be number 11 for me in the countdown. At number 10, we have October 3rd at Iowa State. So Iowa State has been a difficult place for West Virginia to play. But the biggest thing is there's no more Matt Campbell. There's no more Rocco Becht. And I think that's absolutely huge as Iowa State tries to rebuild this thing without Matt Campbell. Jimmy Rogers takes over from him, who had success in the FCS level and was 6-6 last year at Washington State. Can he get the ball rolling early with Iowa State? In my opinion, they're going to be an uphill battle because of the roster turnover. Now, if you're an Iowa State fan, you might look at this game saying you're home against another team that has also had a major roster overhaul. But if I'm West Virginia, I like this game on the schedule. I like West Virginia's chances, but I just don't think it's an intriguing game. You're going to have two teams that probably aren't ranked very high in the Big 12. So this one's going to be at number 10 for me at Iowa State, October 3rd for the West Virginia Mountaineers. At number 9, November 7th, I have at Texas Tech as the number 9 most intriguing game. Texas Tech was the 2025 Big 12 champs. That graphic is wrong. So 2025 Big 12 champs. Texas Tech, guys, this game has not been competitive the last 2 seasons. Texas Tech has outscored West Virginia 101-15 in the last 2 seasons. That is definitely not a good sign for West Virginia. But the biggest question for me in this one is, can West Virginia close the gap? We've definitely been far behind them the last 2 years, and it's been pretty embarrassing. Can this team with 70, 80 new players close the gap? Can this team be closer to what Rich Rodriguez wants to develop long-term in Morgantown? We're going to find out November 7th at Texas Tech. And the thing to keep an eye on here is West Virginia has a bye going into this game, which will be important for West Virginia. Maybe they can get a small advantage there as they head on the road to Lubbock, Texas. Up next at number 8, we have November 28th at Utah. So number 9 and number 8, I think, are the most challenging games on this list. This Utah trip will not be easy. It's the last game of the season. This game might have been higher depending on where it was on the schedule, but I just don't know how much is going to be at stake in this one. So that's why it's in the middle of the road at number 8. West Virginia is 0-3 all time versus Utah, and it was absolutely an embarrassing game last season. West Virginia got absolutely embarrassed with the throwback uniforms and a rainy day at home. Can they turn this around? And I think the kicker here is Utah has a new coach in Morgan Scaley, who takes over the head coaching position from Whittingham, who was there for about 21 seasons. So can West Virginia get off on the right foot in this one and make this a competitive game? You hope that in this game you are a little bit more healthy than you were last season when you played these guys, and you hope this game means something. Can this game be a chance to go to the Big 12 championship or go to a major bowl game? We'll have to see. But my hope is this game does mean something, but we can't guarantee that. So that's why it's number 8 on the countdown on our most intriguing list. Number 7, I have September 26th versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is going to be one of the more interesting teams this season to follow. They've fell on some really hard times the last 2 years. And as West Virginia fans, as Big 12 fans, we're not used to seeing Oklahoma State struggle. And it's been kind of wild to watch what has happened to that football program. It was time for a change, and they hired a really good coach in Eric Morris coming over from North Texas, filling in for Mike Gundy. And Oklahoma State, guys, is going to bring a lot of explosive and talented players over from North Texas. They have a very great quarterback there and explosive playmakers around him that are all coming over. So I expect Oklahoma State to be very much improved, but this is going to be an early game in the season. How fast can that translate for them into the Big 12? You get this one at home. This is a must win, in my opinion, if you're a West Virginia fan. You got to take care of business against a first-year coach, bringing a lot of pieces over at home. My hope is this is a chance for West Virginia to get a win here, much needed. And then at number 6, we have October 24th at TCU. I think the interesting thing to highlight here is West Virginia has won 3 games in a row at TCU. So that's very impressive for West Virginia. They lead the all-time series 8-6. And just overall, the reason why this game is so high, I feel like the majority of the time that these teams play, there are some wild games. It seems like most times, no matter how good the teams are, this game is usually pretty competitive. And I think that is going to be the case with this one this year. No Josh Hoover for them, but West Virginia has a lot of turnover. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here on October 25th at TCU. Should be another wild game for the West Virginia Mountaineers. At number 5, I have November 21st versus Houston. Houston finally makes the trip to Morgantown, guys. The last 2 times that we've played them, it's been at Houston, which to me makes no sense. But I guess with the new teams joining, everything got messed up. But now Houston finally makes the trip to Morgantown. We remember the game last year, West Virginia's road upset 45-35 last season, where everything was clicking on all cylinders that day for the Mountaineer offense. Can West Virginia replicate that? Does Houston have revenge on their mind with a really talented football team and a really good coach with Willie Fritz as he's in year 3? So this one should be entertaining with what you lay out here, with all the points that I just laid out. I think this one should be an entertaining game and one to watch if you're a West Virginia Mountaineer fan. And then number 4, I have November 14th versus Kansas. And the reason I have this is there's a lot of interesting things going on with Kansas. Let's talk about Trey Lathan returning to WVU. So Trey Lathan was the leading tackler for Kansas last season. He was a very talented player at West Virginia that they would have liked to retain, I'm sure, when they made the coaching transition. But he had initially went into the portal, goes back to Kansas after leaving the portal, and he's going to be on the Jayhawks again this season. So that should be definitely interesting. Andy Kotelnicki, it returns to Kansas, and West Virginia gets another shot at him. If you remember, Andy Kotelnicki was linked to West Virginia's head coaching jobs when he was at Penn State as the offensive coordinator, and ultimately those talks stalled. So now he's back at Kansas where he had a lot of success, and he's back where he's familiar. Kansas is going to be an interesting team to keep your eye on. But they don't have Jalen Daniels this year. He finally graduates, which seems like forever that he's been in college, right? They get a quarterback from Rice. They got Dylan Edwards from Kansas State. They should be a pretty interesting team to follow this year. Last year's game versus them was another embarrassing one. It was very eye-opening. It was the first Big 12 game of the season, and it was a sign that it might not go well in the Big 12, and it was just a really rough night to be a West Virginia Mountaineer. Can this team close the gap with Kansas? Can this team, in a late November game, a middle November game, beat a Big 12 opponent like that with Kotelnicki back? I think this one's going to be interesting. There's a lot of storylines to watch. That's why it's number 4 on my countdown. Up next, we have Cincinnati. So October 17th versus Cincinnati. Old Big East rival. It's a home game, and it's the last home game that's going to be played at Milan Postgres Stadium in about a month. If you're a West Virginia fan, you desperately need to get this one. If we lose this game and then have to go on the road for about a month, it could really derail the season and the momentum that we have. So it's important that we get this one. There is no more Sorsby there, which is huge for West Virginia. Can they make that hurt against Cincinnati? West Virginia's had Cincinnati's number since they joined the Big 12. They were successful against them in the Big East. Can they do that again at home? This is a very important game. It's a very intriguing game. It's number 3 on the countdown. At number 2, I have the Rich Rod Bowl. So Rich Rodriguez, as you guys know, coached at Arizona a few stops ago, where he was the head coach, and he did some decent things there and really turned around that program and had it in the right direction. But ultimately, they parted ways for various reasons. And then the other reason, too, that this game's interesting is Rodney Gallagher returns. Rodney Gallagher was a highly rated recruit coming to West Virginia right up the road from Uniontown and never really lived up to the hype. I think Rodney is a solid player. I would have loved to have him back. But if you have to be honest and looking at it, you were hoping you'd get a little bit more out of him. So I don't like losing to former players ever. I don't like losing any games, but never like losing to former players. So this one's going to be fun to watch and see what his role is on Arizona and what this looks like when he takes on the West Virginia Mountaineers. This is going to be a homecoming for him. And then you also have to remember, too, West Virginia just got Caden Luke, the fullback, right? So he's going to be going against his old team. So that's definitely going to be a storyline that's going to be talked about going into this one. And then you also look that Arizona was 9-4 last season, and they had a really nice bounce back year last year after they struggled the year before. And then the other thing is Noah Fafita, the quarterback, is returning for his senior season. He's a dynamic quarterback. We've played against him before, and he's done some really great things in his college career. What does he look like his senior season? This is a long road trip for Arizona, and West Virginia needs to take that to their advantage. They need to protect home field this year if they want to be successful and get this program heading in the right direction. This is a massive game versus Arizona. October 10th should be fun in Morgantown. And then the number 1 game that I'm most looking forward to, that I find most intriguing, is September 19th versus the Virginia Cavs. Virginia was 11-3 last season. It was the most wins they've had in their school's history, and they're feeling confident. They feel like they have the NIL to back them. They feel like they have the right coach, and they feel like they have this thing going in the right direction. Can they replicate that? Last year, Virginia played a lot of close games that went down to the wire, a lot of one-possession games. That could mean on the flip side this year, so many close games that you won last year, does that translate to wins this year? We have to see. The other thing to keep an eye on is Virginia has to go overseas in week 0 this year for their game. What kind of effect does that take place on them? We saw what happened to Kansas State this year. Kansas State played in Ireland, took an L against Iowa State in week 0 and never rebounded. So keep an eye on that week 0 game when Virginia travels overseas or out of the country, because that is going to be important for this one. And then I just think, in this one, it's a massive swing game for the 2026 season. If West Virginia gets this one, they start 3-0 going into conference play. It has been a long time since we've started 3-0 going into conference play. It would get the fan base ignited. You have a very winnable schedule in the front half of your schedule, but you have to get through this one. They're going to have Bo Prabula, they're going to have Eli Holstein, and they're going to have some decent talent coming back from a team that won 11 games. Can you get this one in Charlotte? The last few times that West Virginia has gone to Charlotte, they've played well there. You go back to the Dukes of Mayo Bowl a few years ago. You go back to the Will Grier game versus Tennessee. West Virginia fans have always shown up for this game. Can they have a bigger crowd than Virginia? I like West Virginia's chances for that based on how proud our football program is. But the case in point here is this is the number one intriguing game, in my opinion, of the 2026 season. You guys let me know in the comments. Did I get this list right? Did I get it wrong? Is there other games that you feel I'm sleeping on that should have been ranked higher? Would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. We really appreciate it. Let's go Mountaineers. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.